Okay, welcome back to Edge of Indy. Boy, I trip over that sometimes. We've got a couple shows here, Edge of the Web, Edge of Indy. But you know what? You're on Edge of Windy, and don't ever forget it. So welcome back. I'm Aaron Sparks, and I want to introduce somebody to you that you may know, familiar face, but with a different name. We actually have Brittany Simpson. How did that happen, Brittany?
Just a little thing called a wedding.
A little thing called a wedding. So we got to ask, where'd you go?
We eloped to Vancouver, Canada, and we don't regret it at all.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. No, it was a great time.
Congratulations, and certainly proud of you. And Ryan's a fantastic guy. So he unfortunately did take you away for a couple of weeks.
I know.
I'm a bit
I know.
tweaked at him, but I'll forget him.
He needs to get back in your good graces.
I'm thinking so.
I know. I understand. He'll bring you beer. It's okay.
And meat.
Yeah. And
all right.
exactly.
There we go. Okay, on that note, hey, we wanted to introduce to you an event coming up on the 3rd of August? Yes, it's coming up very, very soon. It's EX Summit, and I'd like to introduce to you some of the speakers and the founder of EX Summit. This is Stephan Vincent, founder of EX Summit, as well as director of marketing at Fusion Alliance. We also have Julie Barker, who is the senior director over at Global HR over at Appirio, as well as Max Yoder, co-founder and CEO of Lessonly. Everybody, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
You're more than welcome. And audience, you do see that we provided some nice beverages for everybody, make everybody comfortable, right?
And I drank the whole first segment. No, I didn't.
Yeah, she's cut off already. All right. So, what is EX Summit or X Summit? Stephan, give us the vision and the passion that you have. Tell us what X Summit is.
Yes, EX stands for employee experience, such as CX for customer experience. Mm-hmm. And the whole idea is to bring a brand and customer experience angle to the employee and employee engagement discussion versus a traditional human resources angle.
So we understand that employee culture is a very important thing to pay attention to, not only just for HR and HR purposes but I mean, getting the most out of your investment with the employees, as well as being able to create a mission and be able to create career paths for employees. I mean, we're in a place now where as much as you are investing in employees are investing in you as a company and your brand, right? So no longer is there a place where companies can just do the minimum viable product of a company. They have to engage, and they have to be able to see where their employees want them to move, right?
Yes. Yeah. Talent acquisition is a very competitive space, right? And even more so in a city like Indianapolis, where it's not a big city, and we have to compete not only with local talent here, but also with cities like Chicago, cities on the West Coast, on the East Coast, actually, who are pulling talents from central Indiana, right? So the goal is really for the companies to think of their organizations as employer or employment brands, to really develop their brands, not just focus on the product or the services they sell, but also on the space they offer for their employees or employees to be.
The physical space, the mission, there's so many different factors to pay attention to, right?
Oh, you bet. I mean, we are finding that there's a different management style from folks who maybe joined the workforce 20 years ago than folks who joined the workforce 7 years ago. And they're so dramatically different that it's almost like you can feel it in the room when one management style meets the other. We would like to. I've been told, and I believe this, that generally people are motivated, but they're not always inspired. And we were looking for management talent who can inspire. And when you find that, people will go above and beyond. But it's not who goes above and beyond for somebody they don't like. Very few people.
Right.
We're not working for the paycheck. We have a lot of options, as people who are in their 20s, and we want to be inspired by not only the business, but the person we report to every day who is guiding us.
Well, company culture has become so important. I mean, it's when you think about millennials right now, millennials are driven by company culture, because if they're not getting what they need, what fulfills them, then they're not going to stay with the company very long. If they can find somebody else with a culture that better gels with them, they're going to leave. So I know company culture is a huge focus of this event too. So how did you all come to, put the focus on that? Because I know it is so timely and so important right now.
Yeah, so something I would say at Appirio that we focus on is when we think of employee experience, it goes to how do you work and how are you productive on a day-to-day basis. And so providing tools and technologies where you can work anywhere and you have that experience that, people are really looking for, which is how do I work with really great and smart people, but how do I do it in a way that works for me? So I think for us, that's a huge part of our culture and that experience, and how do they do a great job for their customers on a day-to-day basis.
I have a bit of a question when it comes down to the employer-employee relationship and the accountability of the employer and the accountability of the employee. Okay, and I'm going to actually reference a little bit of a different landscape when it comes down to online reviews, because social media. Bear with me. There's a relationship here.
He'll get there.
I'll get there. Online reviews and what we've been dealing with in the online review space, right? Companies are having to accommodate for the online review environment where anybody and everybody they do control the brand of companies now. And their experience, that individual experience, right? Regardless of how bad that person's day was prior to the company, it can completely skew their interaction with the company, right? The companies are somewhat beholden to those online reviews. Okay, and they have to make an answer to these. We would love to have social media be a little bit more accountable in that space, but let me liken it to now employee relationships. Is that how accountable? What kind of expectations should employers hold employees accountable to for what they expect from culture, investment, and those type of relationships? Because as an employer, that you can certainly see that the employers have had to match a lot of wants, a lot of needs to be able to satisfy cultural needs, right? Mm-hmm. You see where I was going here?
I see. I know where you're going. I see.
But
I'd be happy to.
But from an employee standpoint, what concessions should employee? Because if there is an old dog type of work mentality, right?
Sure.
There's a lot of hoops that they have to jump through to be able to get into this new cultural oasis that employees are looking for.
Yeah, and I just would argue that I would never want to set an expectation that Lessonly is an oasis, because what you see on Instagram or what you hear about, that's the tip of the iceberg. What keeps the iceberg up is all the hard work we do below that, all the difficult conversations we have, all the tough days.
Yeah.
So it's really important that we set expectations, and we're not going to put the tough days on Instagram. That's just not what it's built for.
Right.
But you have to let people know coming in the door.
However, those could go viral too.
Yeah, we're not looking for that. I think what I'm getting at is the expectation I like to set with employees is the same patience that you give to yourself, the same leeway that you give yourself around you're not perfect and you make mistakes.
Right.
You give that to the business too, because the business is not some entity in the sky. It's a bunch of people, and they're just as prone to mistakes as you are. And if you can't roll with the punches, you're going to have a tough time at this business, because there is no doubt that we're going to make a mistake. And if you hold us, you kind of put our hand to the wall and nail it to it because of that mistake, that stinks. It's not how you treat yourself. It's not how you treat somebody who's your friend. And we're working hard, so we're going to make mistakes. We're moving fast. We're going to make mistakes. And I just love setting the expectation with people. I don't know if it always works, but I sure hope it does.
I appreciate you taking that and going with it, because that's what I was looking for. Is that companies can? They're going to experiment with how they can help employees and their life balance or life work balance and their appreciation of their work environment, right? But there has to be some level of forgiveness and latitude, because they're all trying to get to the same place, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I would add in, Max, you were talking about expectations up front. I think that's key. So if you set the right expectations up front and people know, here's what it means to be an Appirio and here's what it means that I'm signing up for this, that is key. Because if they come in the door and 30 days later, the expectations are way off, that's not good for you. That's not good for the employee. So I think that piece is key. I think how you give outlets for giving feedback in the company is huge. So do you have ways that you're doing that, and how transparent is that? Because otherwise then team members are going to go other ways to find those avenues. And then I know one thing that's been great for us, so we'll use Glassdoor as one of those social media outlets. I respond to every single review that comes in to Glassdoor. So we're giving the opportunity for someone to reach out to myself directly with my email address out on there. That puts it out there.
Yep.
But it's also responding to every single review, no matter what, positive or constructive. So those are a couple of things that have been really helpful for us.
And the ramifications of that is that the future employees see your brand and your communication style in the midst of either positive or negative, right? So, I mean, there's on the internet and in the social wake that we have here, there's even more human resource management and communication needs that are out there. So getting back to the summit, sorry, I just kind of took a beeline here, but get back to the summit. The summit is coming up. It's on Butler University campus from 8 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. on Thursday, August 3rd. Tell us a little bit more about the event and who's speaking and what attendees will expect to see.
Well, we have two of our speakers here,
right.
Julia and Max. The goal is really to have a mix of HR-related roles as well as marketers, operations, customer experience people, because the employee experience as a whole is a collective effort between all those different components. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be driven only by HR or by leadership. Everybody has a stake and a role in designing and defining the employee experience. The goal is really to attract more people outside of the traditional HR space. Right. So the more marketers, operations, customer experience people we have, the better the conversation and discussion will be.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. So some of the speakers that are going to be there, besides Julie and Max, are?
We'll have Jeffrey Moss coming from Chicago. He will kick off the events. Then we'll have 3 different types of breakouts. Mm-hmm. We'll have one that is highly collaborative with Jenny Banner leading a workshop on the new employee onboarding journey.
Right.
We'll have a panel discussion where Julie will be participating, and it will be really about actually who is driving or who should be driving the employee experience. Should it be HR? Should it be marketing? Should it be customer experience? We'll have some marketers with Tiffany Soder from Element 3.
Yep, big fan.
We'll have a millennial representative with Jeremy Miller. Right. We'll have... and then we'll have Randy Stocklin from One Click Ventures as well, who just won the Mira for the best culture in 2017. Right?
Fantastic.
And I'm missing someone.
That's okay.
That's a good lineup.
Yeah.
Randy will do great.
And then we'll have the third breakout session will be people giving 20-minute talks. We'll have someone from Structural, here part of High Alpha, Chip House, and then we'll have Jason Seiden, who actually started Brand Amper at Developer Town and then sold it to the Muse a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. It will be coming from Chicago.
Very cool.
And then we'll have someone from Student Connections as well.
Good for you for remembering all that.
That was a lot.
I know it's your conference, but that doesn't mean it comes to mind. Yeah.
and we got Max too to conclude the events.
I am thrilled to be there. We're going to be talking about candor. That's my job. And
I believe in that.
You believe in it?
Candor or frank?
I think everybody believes in it. I don't know a whole lot of people who are very good at doing it, and man, do we need more of it. I mean, I was thinking the other day, if I was ever lucky enough to make any change to the Secretary of Education's role. I'm not talking about any existing Secretary of Education. But let's say we get somebody in there who cares deeply about changing the lives of children, challenging them to put together a curriculum that helps kids understand how to identify when they need to have a difficult conversation, then how to carry out the difficult conversation and follow up on it.
Absolutely.
We just are not taught that, and especially in the Midwest. Being frank, it's either on the coast where you might be direct but maybe hurtful,
right,
or it's in the Midwest where it's like, oh, you're fine, and then somebody walks out of the room and they're like, that was awful.
Yeah,
and it's like, there's a middle point there.
Yeah, you
where
can't
we
be
gotta
frank
get to.
and polite. You're either frank or polite.
Yeah,
in the
so
Midwest.
it's being tactfully direct and understanding, establishing that you care for that person. Because that's not going to work otherwise.
Right.
If you know that we don't get along,
right,
which we definitely do, but let's say let's say we don't get along, and I come to you with some frank feedback, you're like, screw that guy.
Right.
So we have to have that relationship established. Anyhow, we'll kind of dig into some reasons why I think that's super important and some ways to build it. There is no silver bullet. We've been working and building it for a while, and Lessonly probably has a third of the difficult conversations that it should. It's just like it's so hard, and it never gets easy.
It really is, but it's much more beyond an employer-employee relationship or even employee. And these are it's very similar, like the Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University, the stuff that you're never taught in school about investments, about what it means to actually balance a checkbook, right? All of a sudden, I mean, there's so many adults that become adults without those skills. These skills about how to actually have frank conversations, right, and how to be able to realize what hurtful language is and how to keep morale going, right, between your friends and between colleagues. But on top of that, even we have got a great friend, Lisa Mitchell over at Power Body Language, literally knowing how to read body language. Because body language is so incredibly important whenever you're meeting and actually communicating. In fact, the auditory, the speech itself is the third tier. It's body language, it's eye contact, and then you're actually processing what somebody's saying. Those skills are just not taught. And to be able to actually have that type of relationship and be able to have that fostered inside of an organization, I mean, it's immense. It's powerful. And that's some of that social fabric that keeps employees with you, right?
Yeah. Max, I'm looking forward to that session. I think employee experience, that's such a huge tie. People leave a company because they're not getting good feedback and they're not growing. And that ties into that greatly. So I think that's going to be a really good topic, and I hope I actually get to sit in on that. So one of the reasons I was really excited to participate in this event is at Appirio, we talk daily about what we call the virtuous cycle and the tie between customer experience and employee experience, and they're not separate. So this was just a part of my day-to-day, and the fact that it's not something that we just talk about in HR and what that means within the fabric of our company. So for me, that was where that panel session was a perfect fit, and I'm excited to kind of dig into that more.
Yeah, a common theme between all the different talks, presentations, workshops, and even the episodes that I do on the EX podcast is Max was talking about candor, transparency,
right.
Vulnerability of leadership, trying to do new things, test things. If it doesn't work out, it just doesn't work out. Let's move on to something else.
Right.
It's really important into designing that employee experience.
Well, and I know one of your personal missions is to disrupt status quo and to help companies and organizations really find their differentiator between their competitors. Tell us more about that and why you're driven by that mission.
Sure. Well, the focus has been on the customer experience for the last, let's say, maybe 2 decades. Let's say 20, 25 years, right? And that was really the differentiator. That was really the differentiator on the customer side for customers to be loyal to a brand.
It still is.
It still is, but it's
I know what you mean, but
it's not enough.
Yeah, sure.
It's not enough, especially when it comes to talents. Now there's so much versatility in the talent space where people can easily switch jobs and they can work remotely, etc.
Right.
That it becomes more and more as a differentiating factor for the companies to not only attract but retain top talent as well.
I just love that it's a trend because you say, hey, it's a big factor. We're in a pretty laggard space with the learning software. There's a lot of LMSs, learning management systems, that have been around for 20 years.
Right.
And people come to Lessonly and they just can't believe that they're told, like, we're not going to be able to get that done for 3 days because other people will just go dark on you and then they pop back up later when it's ready and it's like, oh, 2 weeks later, they haven't gotten any feedback.
Right.
So just the honesty, the transparency is still a way we can differentiate as business. And it's awesome because I get to be in a space where it's like you just treat people like humans and people are like, no way. And I mean that like as it's pretty neat. We just got lucky about falling into a space where that is not common. So we hopefully get to help people level up because we got competitors who just don't care about that at all. They're like, I sold you something for very little money. Leave me alone. But nobody wants to nobody wants to engage with a company that way.
Well, it's about having those frank conversations, right? Even with a customer is that, well, can you do this? Well, I mean, the default answer is yes, we can.
Right.
And then everybody scrambles and goes, how the hell do we do that?
Right. That happens all the time.
Yeah. But being able to actually broadcast that back over to the client, going, yeah, we don't know exactly, we know where we're going, but we have the talent to be able to do it.
Yep.
What a fresh perspective and a trust build right there.
And a gentleman named Corey Kime, who runs the client experience team, he is highly formal. So when he's like, this isn't going to happen, his initial instinct is to say, it isn't going to happen. And people don't have that muscle like he does.
Yeah.
So he has the expectation with his team, which has been built out now. It's about 10 people. That is what we do. If it's not going to happen, you tell somebody it's not going to happen
quickly,
and they love it. Yeah. People don't always love that it's not going to happen. Don't get me wrong, but they appreciate the honesty.
Yep.
And he, as a leader, set the expectation, which created the team's culture of, if we can't do it, don't drag people along.
All right.
Don't mince your words. Like if it's the case, then let's just be frank and say it.
I'm going to bring Simon Sinek into the mix here. All right. So let's start with the why, right? People buy into brands not for what they do or how they do it, right? But why they're doing what they're doing. And what you're talking about, that level of transparency, it pulls the veil away, and this is why we are who we are. and all of a sudden brands fall into line and they'll trust beyond what the services are that you're providing. It's be able to have those relationships. So relationships are everything when it comes down to the B2C to the B2B realm. You have to have those trust factors. But when it comes down to the B to E, that business to employer, you have to have that same fabric. You can't ignore that. And this is what you're talking about, right?
Yes. I heard a couple of months ago Airbnb's head of employee experience saying about what they did at Airbnb when he came on board a couple of years ago. And basically the way he sees it is the organization defines a framework for the employee experience, and that it's up to the employees to decide within that framework what their own experiences is going to be. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking the other day, it's exactly, let's take Nike as a brand, right? Just do it, right? That's basically the definition of, that's the framework. And within that framework, every one of us is just doing it the way we want to do it, right? And that's the way it should be the same way for the employee experience, right? The employees should have a framework that they can't really go beyond, right? Those are the basic rules.
Mm-hmm. The cage.
And within that, employees can define their own experiences. If I'm in accounting and I'm 55 years old, I may have different aspirations than if I'm on the customer service side and I'm 25 years old, right?
Right. No, I agree with you. I just, again, getting back into the employer hat, I still do, I do concern myself with the unwarranted expectation or the unspoken expectation from an employee, because those can get sideways in an employee's mind. And if they're not communicated, right, you'll never know what you did. It's just, you either don't have that employee or they're a bit toxic because something's not being fed, right?
You bet. We're going to take a little bit from the last generation, a little bit from the current generation, and we're going to mix them together because neither of them, they're both extremes in some way, shape, or form. They're built by whatever, the surrounding things that happen to people, how they were raised, and neither of them are perfect. So letting people work wherever they want all the time, I don't think that's a great idea. Here's the deal: setting the guard.
Don't you look at me over there? What does he do? He looks over at me.
Well, hey, I don't mean to throw you under the bus. But as the team gets bigger, that gets really, really hard. We are just all about setting the guardrails. Absolutely. I heard the cage as an example. We just call it the guardrails.
Right.
You spell it out.
It's more like a guideline than a rule.
You
right?
bet. Yeah, but stay in the bumpers, man. Stay in the bumpers.
Absolutely.
And if you don't write down what your bumpers are, how do you expect people to know?
Right.
And a lot of companies don't write them down, but then they're like, "Oh, you're not doing it right," and then the employee can go, well, what does right look like? Because you've never spelled it out for me. The handbook doesn't cover all of these. All of these. You're never going to get every minute detail. You just aren't. You're just not going to be able to document everything. Right. But doing your best to continue to get better about documenting the guardrails is the employer's job, and it helps the employee understand, are they meeting the mark?
And if the employees are actually working with the employer to actually define those guardrails, then you got buy-in, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that's where where the experiment really leads us, is that unless the employee has a way to be able to communicate and have it seen, because we have the employee contract, which is the financial obligation. You have the HR, which is literally the what happens if, it's just the oh shit moment. Forgive my expression, right?
Contingency.
It's contingency. Yeah, well, I like my phrase better. yeah. But it's a contingency, right?
Your phrase was great.
You should start using that. It's the shit plan.
But it's that employee relationship experience contract, right? Of okay, what do you want to get out of this career path, and how can we help you get there? And then have that defined. If I really want to do this from a career escalation, but what I really want to see is the work-life balance. If I want to be able to have some flex time, this, that, and the other, it just can't be a policy that's inflexible. You've got to be able to be agile and be able to have a one-to-one relationship for each and every employee, right? This is a therapy session for me, by the way. So inside strategics, we actually are experimenting with a lot of things, because I'm actually an old school punch the clock.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, exactly.
An old school,
and I put in the time at the office because that's where the work gets done, right? We've got a lot of millennial mindsets. We have a lot of younger generation that are working here, and this is the experiment. We actually have 2 days. That's remote work from home days, right? And you better believe that goes against every grain.
Saturday and Sunday?
Exactly, yes.
No.
Wait. Yes, we could do that.
Don't tell him that. No, but it's working.
It is absolutely
It's
working
working.
because it gives empowerment to the employees. We're also sprint focused, so we've got our locked-in tasks for a couple of weeks. Everybody knows what to burn down. But it is a healthy give back to employees that you don't have to be here to work, right? You're doing work for the clients wherever you want to, and it gives that additional latitude to the employees to have that new experience with their employer.
Well, and we're blessed in this industry that we don't have to be behind one desk in
Right.
front of one computer all the time. In digital marketing, we can be anywhere, and that's the beauty of it.
And
So
I'll still be at my desk.
I know you will. we know where to find you.
Yeah, so I think that's the big thing is how you started.
Right.
You have to be open to change and evolve and listen to that feedback over time and what makes sense based on your brand, that, the customer brand that ties to your employment brand. And kind of like Max said, there's guardrails and guidelines that make sense for you, but you know what those are, but you have to evolve over time when you hear feedback. So I know that's something, so I'll give Amplify a big plug here, but they're looking at agile engagement and they're saying you're going to look at this quarterly and you're going to focus on different areas that have different feedback and that change maybe a quarter later or 6 months later and talk about that at the time of versus waiting a year or two later to adjust and hear that something isn't working. So I think it's being open to that and knowing you have to do that, and that's only going to make your experience better.
Excellent. Yes, sir.
We're now at the size of team where there's 70 people in the business. And in the early days, if there was a decision made, everybody kind of said, oh, that applies to me too. So if one manager said to the contributor, here's what we're going to do, the other people kind of were like, well, I probably get to do that too. Well, now we have departments that have their own styles. It's like, subcultures. And one of the things that I just found interesting is when one of those subcultures makes a change, or gives a leeway or maybe pulls something back in, the other subcultures go, well, does that apply to me too?
Right.
And just to reinforce that the manager of the team gets to manage the team. And if another manager's decision affects that manager, that's probably not a very good thing. Like they each have their own teams with their own people with their own subcultures.
Right.
So it's just, I guess what I'm getting at is the expectation as you grow really changes, and to have to continue to communicate that it used to be that we had one policy. Now as the teams get bigger, each team has their own policy, and it has to be that way because I hold that person accountable to a goal. And if I tell them they have to do something a certain way that they don't think will allow them to hit their goal, well, then I'm responsible if they don't.
Right.
Otherwise, if I let them say, "Hey, you reign supreme, get it done," there's no excuses. That means everybody's gonna have their own recipe. But that has just been a weird transition thing for us that I hope was worth talking about.
No, absolutely. No. That's the thing. But I mean, to your point, Max, is that's undiscovered country for so many companies. I mean, just that, and literally that probably scared a lot of business owners because there's a system. You adhere to the system, right? And this is old dog mentality.
That's
but
relinquishing control.
it is really, but giving empowerment, right? So that's how I translate that. See,
Very good.
I'm
Very
doing
good.
I'm doing very good.
You're hearing,
Thank
you're
you for
hearing
that.
all of it.
One big question as well is, there's a lot of segmentation on the customer side. Why should we have to treat the employees as the same bunch? Why can we segment employees, whether by teams, by functions, right? Again, someone in sales may not have the same aspirations as someone in accounting or on the production floor. Why do we have to treat the employees as the same bunch?
Absolutely. How can we put them in a cage and actually have betting pools against them, right?
Well, it's like it's like parenting. I imagine you don't parent every
absolutely.
child the same. You've
No, you
got
don't.
your little nuances, and you treat them differently, and all of that. So it's doing the same thing for your employees. Makes total sense
Are
to
you
me.
working on that?
Not yet. Don't freak him out. He's probably watching. Don't scare him. Ryan, it's okay.
It probably
don't
wasn't
worry.
my place to ask, but I figured, married and then kids are on the mind.
The next step.
I have twin 6-year-olds and they're not even the same. And so I would love to tell you that I treat them both the same, but they have their unique expectations of me too. So
I have 4 kids, and I'm just going to stop there.
read between the lines.
And read between the lines. Absolutely. So regarding the summit and who's actually helping you move awareness of the summit, because absolutely, I mean, this conversation is a conversation that Indiana needs to happen, and you also do it in Cincinnati as well. I mean, these are ongoing conversations, ongoing. Just bring everybody to the table and talk about some of these frank conversations that don't often get talked about. I mean, this is where the employer can actually recharge, right? And get some inspiration, because as soon as, I went to your summit last year, and it was a standing room only. It was a fantastic thing. Me and Mark Ertl, the creative director here, when we got some great ideas to bring back home. Who's actually helping you become aware that your listeners and your viewers become aware from a sponsorship standpoint? Who's actually alongside with you and actually lifting you up?
Yeah, you've got some great sponsors.
Yeah, you really do.
Yeah, we have, so you guys, right?
Sure.
You're going to help us sponsor the events.
Absolutely. We're going to be there.
The events, and thank you so much.
Absolutely.
We have Element 3 as well.
Yep.
And we have Appirio as well supporting us. And we have some community partners as well, Centric, Take Points, the Indianapolis chapter of the American Marketing Association.
Oh,
as well.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And you've seen a lot of buy-in for, this is the third one that you've done, correct?
Yes.
So there's a continual thread of the sponsors that are actually championing the event, is they are listening to their employees. They are wanting to be able to plug in and be able to change some of the ecosystem away from a standard type of business environment, right?
Right. And the goal is really to, first of all, to focus on local speakers, right? Local companies sharing their stories so that our audience can relate to those stories. And we have the chance to have different company sizes speaking at the event as well, from Appirio and Cummins. Actually, I knew that I had forgotten someone. It was Carlin Kurtz from Cummins who will be on the panel along with Julie. So we have Listenly, 70 person company. So we have that large breadth of company sizes and different sectors of industry represented as well, so that our audience can take and learn and apply whatever they hear and they want to take back home from the summit.
I think we've forgotten one major thing.
Okay.
How do we get tickets?
Yep.
Yes, you go to exsummit.com/Indianapolis and you will see the entire lineup of speakers, biographies, and synopsis, and the click button to register.
Perfect.
And for our listeners, and certainly for Edge listeners here, we want to make sure we give them a special discount. Is if you put in the code, what is the code?
Edge 5. Edge all cap 5.
5. And any of our Edge listeners can get a discount of $5 off their ticket. And that's fantastic. Thank you so much for that offering. And we're certainly going to let all of our listeners know here. So how you can connect with EX Summit is on Twitter at EX_Summit, right? LinkedIn is Vincent Stephan, right? So let's go around the room and how we reach out to all the different brands represented here as well.
Okay. You can reach out any way that kind of works for you, Julie Barker. Or you can reach out at Appirio or Julie Barker 1018. So on Twitter, LinkedIn, Julie Barker, or again, you can get us at Go Appirio or at Appirio.
Fantastic.
Good memory.
That was well done.
Yeah.
I am Max Yoder across everything, like no space, no underscore. There's never spaces, but you know what I mean, no dashes. And then Lessonly is at Lessonly on Twitter, and we'd love for you to look at pictures and read tweets.
Yeah. Do all the socials, and we certainly ask for the watchers and the listeners of the podcast to actually touch base with their upper management. And I mean, this is a absolute fantastic opportunity to be able to share with your employer, say, you know what, hey, could you send somebody over there? This is a really great experience to hear from thought leaders that are passionate about employee experience, because it is, here's the thing, it's so easy to do, right? And it means so much to employees. Just being able to pay attention and make small changes. So these small changes are what employees are looking for on a regular basis. And the signal that you send as an employer not attending to certain things is deafening.
Well, when you think about this one morning for this event, you could grow in the right direction. I mean, you can go there and gain so much insight. You can have ideas. You can go back to your upper management and with all of these ideas and present, we're not doing all of this. This is what we could be doing. Let's find what's good for us. So I think this would be really valuable for a lot of different roles and different companies. I think it would be great.
I would just love the people. I would just love a ton of people to come. Please go.
All the people, please
all
come.
the peoples.
Let's make it another glass door for Indy. If you don't see a company listed here, don't go work for that company.
Oh crap! Don't say that. Fantastic. Well, Stephan, any final message of just from the founder of EXM? I mean, you certainly have visions for the future. Is this going to be a regular annual event here?
Yes, I just got confirmation today that we'll go to Minneapolis on the 3rd of October.
Great.
We're working on the confirming speakers. It will be in partnership with a Structural here in Indianapolis, but they have there are two main executives are based in Minneapolis.
Yep.
And then we also have the EX podcast available on iTunes.
Yep.
We had one episode with Max and with Steve Pruden, who is he your boss?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Excellent.
those actually are available on iTunes already.
Fantastic. All right. Well, check out all the things that are coming out of it.
All the things. Check them all out.
Check them all out over at EX Summit. Thank you so much.
One thing to conclude, sorry.
Yeah.
The summit is not only for employers or employees' representatives.
Okay.
It's also for employees.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you have a passion as an employee around employee experience, just go and register to the event as well, and hopefully we'll see you there.
Yeah, and that's a very good declaration there because, you can get kind of mired in from a management standpoint, but this is employees need to know what the tapestry is from an employee experience.
Well, and culture really should be built from the bottom up, not the top down. So start with the employees, get them activated and ready to learn, and then they can take it back.
There it is. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. We're going to go ahead and wrap up. Make sure that you go to the August 3rd EX Summit, starting at 8 in the morning to 12:15. Make sure that you also get tickets over at the Eventbrite. Go to exsummit.com/Indianapolis to be able to get your ticket. Use EDGE5 to be able to get a $5 discount code. And we are certainly going to be there and be able to help lift and advertise the EX Summit prior to the event. Give us a shout and tell us your employee experiences as well, because we certainly want to give some good information back to the speakers as well as the founder. So thank you.